Good day, my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ. This is the Arabian Desert, specifically the United Arab Emirates, which is right now drying out from historic rainfall. Besides its beautiful streets, advanced transport systems, and lavish five-star hotels, Dubai is also known for being prone to several natural disasters. The last major disaster warning was given less than a month ago, and the resulting flood was so severe that it buried most of the lower streets under running rivers powerful enough to sweep away many cars in its path. What was the cause of this disaster, and what makes it so unique? Join us as we examine the recent flood that sunk Dubai over 3 meters deep. The unexpected flood on January 3rd, just a few days into the new year, prompted Dubai police to notify the public of a sudden flood sweeping hundreds of cars across multiple routes in the city. The floods were so drastic that many motorists had to use special routes to avoid getting swept away by the running waters. As a result, these roads quickly became congested with immense traffic. Among these roads were the famous Emirates and metro pathways. Flights at Dubai International Airport were diverted following heavy rainfall and major flooding. Unlike most of the roads that recently got flooded in Saudi Arabia, these routes had drainage systems built to prevent intense flooding. However, while most lower routes like the Al Nada and Idad roads sank under over 3 meters of water, many civilians were still able to move along the higher roads leading to safer areas. Sadly, that wasn't the end of the story, as there were many more problems on the horizon. As if traffic congestion weren't bad enough, the higher roads were also flooded, albeit not as much as the lower pathways, with water levels high enough for the authorities to reduce the speed limit by a huge margin to prevent accidents. Rain fell across Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and other areas of the Emirates that morning. Realizing how the situation was only getting worse, the authorities issued more warnings for high winds and sea storms in the coming hours. It started as a slight rain that began shortly after 4 a.m. in Dubai and slowly worsened as time went by, building up as growing clouds moved from the seas through the previous night. While the loss of property wasn't very significant, many saw it as a divine sign hinting at a much bigger disaster coming later this year. To find out why, let's step back to a similar event that occurred in Dubai around the same time last year, which led to something much worse, the Persian Gulf floods. January 3rd of last year was another frightening day for meteorologists at the UAE Storm Center, as many signs hinted at a possible flood occurring in a matter of days. However, there wasn't enough evidence to prove it. Sadly, this concern didn't go beyond the walls of the research center, as many people were too busy to plan for an event the experts weren't even sure about. With this in mind, it was business as usual until the evening of January 14th, when a light rain fell across the city and continued into the night. Many saw it as a refreshing break from the long drought, marking the start of the long-awaited rainy season. According to immediate weather forecasts, this rain was expected to end before daybreak, but it proved them wrong by growing more intense with each passing hour. By noon the following day, the rain had only gotten worse. Roads were flooded, and many schools and businesses couldn't open for the day. All flights were either delayed or cancelled, and experts called it the city's heaviest rainfall in over half a century. Hundreds and thousands of passengers were stranded at the airport, waiting for 10, 16, or even up to 24 to 30 hours. The storm finally ended 2 days after it began, and experts believed it was caused by low pressures moving south from the Red Sea, which brought a lot of moist air to the region. Adding this to the already warm waters of the Persian Gulf created the perfect recipe for a long thunderstorm that could last for days. It was a great lesson for experts and average civilians alike, a warning that things weren't always as they seemed when it came to the region's climate. This meant weather forecasts could be wrong, and people would do well to prepare for unexpected events in the coming years. What the experts didn't know was that the short flood was only a warning sign of a much bigger disaster set to happen just a few months later. On April 16th, Dubai and many other parts of the UAE were hit by a much bigger storm. Unlike the previous one, the rains this time were much heavier. The floods were so severe that CNN described it as a year's worth of rain falling in a single day. It affected all 7 emirates and was caused by stronger moist winds arriving from the Persian Gulf. The economic impact was massive, with total damages costing over $2 billion to fix. In response, UAE leaders announced a new project aimed at increasing the city's drainage capacity by over 700%. While these steps were commendable, they did little to stop the more recent flood of January 3rd. With similar signs now hinting at an even greater flood this year, many believe Saudi Arabia's recent floods may soon happen again, this time in Dubai. Here's how Saudi Arabia's warning serves as a caution for Dubai's future. On the dry, cold morning of January 6th, the National Meteorological Center issued multiple red alerts, warning civilians about upcoming rains heavy enough to cause a great flood. This warning came just 3 days after the flash flood in Dubai. As predicted, intense rain began the following evening. The resulting flood was severe, covering many cities including Mecca, Medina, and Jeddah. In a matter of hours, the busy streets turned into rivers, with the highest rainfall recorded in Al-Shafia, a region in Baha Governorate, followed closely by Jeddah's Al-Basadin. Entire cars, with people inside, were swept away like weightless balloons, raising questions about the existence and efficiency of drainage systems. The storm sparked religious debates about its cause. Some attributed it to natural factors, while others saw it as a supernatural event, a divine act to transform the city into a vast green meadow or a sign of impending judgment. After the storm, experts at the National Meteorological Center immediately began researching its causes. While they already knew it was due to low pressures and warm air, they wanted to find ways to prevent a similar disaster. After weeks of investigation, they concluded that rising atmospheric temperatures allowed larger storm clouds to form, leading to longer and heavier rainfall, especially after extended periods of heat and drought. These findings highlighted the increasing frequency of floods across the East during the same time of year, pointing to a common culprit: climate change. Though this discovery was significant, it was bittersweet. It revealed not only that humans could mitigate the effects of these disasters but also that they were the primary cause. The parallels between Saudi Arabia and Dubai's climate patterns became increasingly evident. Both regions are prone to extreme weather conditions: cold, wet seasons with flooded streets, and hot, dry seasons marked by dusty evenings. Climate change has widened the gap between these extremes, causing longer and heavier rains every new year after hotter drought periods. While experts now understand the main cause behind these events, solving the problem remains elusive. The best Dubai's leaders can do is prepare. As Saudi Arabia serves as a warning for Dubai, it seems inevitable that a similar disaster may occur in the coming months. Dubai, a city that prides itself on modernity, now faces the daunting task of clearing its water-clogged roads and drying out flooded homes just 2 days after a record-breaking storm. Situated where low-pressure systems bring warm air from surrounding waters annually, the city braces itself for more extreme weather in the future. Many ongoing projects are being put in place to make the city more urbanized, and that is part of the problem. By building new platforms over natural areas and replacing natural drainage systems with less capable artificial ones, the city faces increasing challenges, especially as rainfall continues to rise every year. Even the current improved drainage systems wouldn't be able to keep up. There's also the fact that while the Tatsri project promises to increase drainage by 700% in 2033, it comes with many problems that make it almost impossible to achieve. First off, despite how advanced the city is in technology, the truth remains that projects like this require specialized equipment that often doesn't meet deadlines. This means the 9-year project, expected to end by late 2033, would likely take at least 2 more years to finish, thereby defeating the purpose of having a strict timeline. Secondly, even if the project sticks to the 9-year plan, let's not forget that the increasing rainfall in the coming years won't wait for the project to be completed. 9 years is enough time to flood the city several times over, especially as the rains are only getting heavier. Let's also remember that large-scale projects like this always affect natural ecosystems and the animals that inhabit them. The tools used also leave a high carbon footprint, contributing further to the existing problem of flooding. Moreover, this project would cause budgetary issues for future years. Money that could be used to restore lost properties after floods would have to be diverted to the ongoing project. Each flood would be greater than the previous one. The next major flood, expected later this year or in early 2026, is predicted to affect many aspects of the city, including roads, buildings, and public services. Many roads would be closed, public transport would become almost non-existent, and emergency services might face delays in responding. Many could lose their businesses, and the economy would face an even greater hit than it's currently recovering from. These scenarios could be avoided if the city invests in drainage systems with a much shorter timeline. While initially costly, using less expensive methods like building dams and improving early warning systems could significantly reduce property losses. Experts at the UAE Storm and National Meteorological Centers are diligently working to track abnormal weather patterns and issue warnings to prepare for upcoming threats. Until the next major warning, we must wait and see what Mother Nature has in store for this beautiful city. Saudi Arabia, home to Islam's 2 holiest cities, Mecca and Medina, which draw millions of Muslims worldwide every year during the Hajj, has been grappling with challenging climate patterns. These include severe droughts, extreme heat, dry conditions, air pollution, and, worst of all, persistent flash floods. These issues come with severe consequences. The country's geography plays a crucial role in determining its weather patterns. Saudi Arabia is primarily arid, with vast desert areas like the Rub' al-Khali, also known as the Empty Quarter, one of the world's largest sand deserts. Coastal regions along the Red Sea to the west and the Arabian Gulf to the east also influence weather patterns. Saudi Arabia's desert climate is extreme, with scorching daytime temperatures that drop dramatically at night. Rainfall is scarce, and sandstorms are frequent. The country can be divided into coastal and interior regions. Coastal areas like Jeddah and Jizan have milder climates due to their proximity to the sea, though higher humidity makes the winters uncomfortable. Interior regions, including Riyadh and Al-Khobar, endure harsh desert climates, with summer temperatures often exceeding 45 degrees Celsius. The nation regularly experiences sandstorms, dust storms, and occasional heavy rainfall, leading to flash floods. These floods are typically caused by convective thunderstorms that develop rapidly and release large amounts of water in a short time. Such events can pose risks to infrastructure, agriculture, and human settlements, as the arid land struggles to absorb large volumes of water. Scorching heat waves also strain the country's resources, increasing energy demands for cooling systems. Unusual weather patterns, including snowfall in the northwest, have sparked discussions about the impact of global climate change on Saudi Arabia. One of the most severe floods occurred in November 1985, described as the worst in half a century. Streets in the northwest were submerged over a meter deep, paralyzing life for 3 days and causing widespread destruction in Jeddah and surrounding areas. In 2009, another catastrophic flood struck Jeddah, overwhelming the city's infrastructure and causing widespread devastation. Rapid urbanization and inadequate urban planning worsened the impact. Flooding struck again in 2010, though less severe, yet still damaging Riyadh. A study revealed that just 45 minutes of heavy rainfall on May 3 caused floods and car accidents across the city. The water disaster happened, and this time 10 people tragically lost their lives, while 3 others were reported missing. It is said that the cause of this devastating flooding was heavy rainfall that persisted for 3 consecutive days, resulting in widespread floods and disruptions throughout the region. The floods wreaked havoc on the infrastructure, causing damage to important elements like highways, sidewalks, and various structures. The affected area covered a vast expanse estimated to be around 400 to 600 square kilometers. What made this event even more disheartening was that it was part of a series of flash flood incidents that had been occurring in Jeddah since 2009, with subsequent floods in 2010 and 2011. This pattern of recurring floods was deeply concerning. In response to these events, there was a systematic review of emergency planning for flash flood responses in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The aim was to assess the effectiveness of emergency plans using the flash floods in Jeddah in 2009 and 2011 as case studies. For some years, it seemed like the strategy to mitigate the frequency or impact of flooding was effective, as the nation experienced respite until it was interrupted by very heavy rainfall in 2015. However, unlike other times when the effect was localized, the disaster affected different parts of the country. Reports indicate that the rainfall was a result of a complex weather system that brought intense precipitation in a short period, leading to rapid runoff and the accumulation of water in low-lying areas. The rainfall was so intense that the drainage systems couldn't cope, resulting in widespread flooding in both urban and rural areas. In urban areas, impermeable surfaces like concrete and asphalt prevent water from seeping into the ground, causing it to flow rapidly on the surface. Moreover, insufficient maintenance of drainage channels and ditches further hindered the water's flow, resulting in localized flooding and inundation of specific areas. After the last catastrophe, different bodies came together to work on a solution, which seemed to have worked. In fact, it did, because for over 7 years the nation took a break from the scourge of floods. However, just in the 8th year, precisely in August of this year, tragedy struck again. Distressing videos shared on social media showed cars stranded on flooded roads. Brave individuals stepped forward to help guide these vehicles. The streets were filled with rainwater, causing numerous vehicles to become trapped, resulting in widespread traffic disruptions. The most affected area was the mosque environment, and as a result, the authorities had to temporarily halt prayers at Ourlady Mosque to carry out necessary maintenance work. The causes of the August 2023 flooding in Saudi Arabia can be attributed to a combination of natural and human factors. Reports from reputable sources such as the World Meteorological Organization and the National Center for Environmental Prediction indicate that the flooding was a result of intense and prolonged rainfall. These weather patterns were likely influenced by broader climatic conditions and atmospheric factors that favored the occurrence of heavy precipitation in the affected regions. It is disheartening to witness the consequences of such flooding events. The sad reality, however, is that no matter how aware we are of the consequences, nothing prepares us for the severe damage to infrastructure, waste of manual labor efforts, displacement of persons, and most painfully, the loss of lives. Apart from the flood's consequences on the human population, the floods have a saddening impact on the local animal population. One of the main challenges for animals is the disruption of their natural habitats. Floods can destroy critical areas like nesting sites, food supplies, and shelters, forcing animals to search for resources in new locations. This can result in heightened competition, conflicts with other animal populations, and increased predation risks. Additionally, floods can lead to the loss of vegetation and soil erosion, further reducing the availability of food and shelter. Moreover, floods directly threaten animal populations through drowning, injuries, or displacement. Animals unable to escape rising floodwaters may suffer fatalities, especially those not adapted to aquatic environments. The floodwaters can also carry debris and pollutants, posing health risks to animals and potentially causing illness or poisoning. From a wildlife conservation perspective, floods can have long-term implications for vulnerable or endangered species. Habitat destruction and population displacement can further endanger these species, potentially leading to declines in population numbers and genetic diversity. Conservationists may need to intervene by relocating animals or implementing habitat restoration projects to mitigate the impact of flooding on at-risk populations. Additionally, floods disrupt the food chain and resource availability for animals. Aquatic species may experience changes in water quality and nutrient availability due to flooding, affecting their survival and reproductive success. Terrestrial animals may find their food sources submerged or washed away, leading to scarcity and the risk of malnutrition. It is crucial for both local and national authorities to thoroughly study and understand the causes of floods, both natural and human-induced. By doing so, authorities can strategically implement measures to reduce the risks associated with these natural disasters. The gravity of these events highlights the urgent need for comprehensive and effective measures to address the increasing frequency and impact of flash floods in Saudi Arabia. The safety and well-being of the population, as well as the preservation of infrastructure, must be prioritized to mitigate the devastating consequences of such natural disasters. Sadly, both intentionally and unintentionally, humans play a significant role in floods occurring in Saudi Arabia. There are several ways in which human actions contribute to flooding. One major factor is the rapid expansion of cities and infrastructure. As urban areas grow, natural landscapes are replaced by impermeable surfaces like roads, buildings, and parking lots. This means that when it rains, water cannot seep into the ground as quickly. Instead of being absorbed, the rainwater flows over land, overwhelming drainage systems and natural waterways during heavy rainfall. Inadequate urban planning and development also contribute to flooding.